Raise your hand. If you have ever had something in your life, not quite yet. If you have ever had something in your life that wasn't working, and after doing everything you could think of to do, it still wasn't working. Yeah? Uh-huh. Now this might be a little bit different. That is a very unique frustration, akin to trying to get other drivers to use their turn signals. Now, maybe you might have something that's been eating at you over the years. It's been chewing at you. You feel like life is calling you to this, and you want to step up. But after a while, it starts to feel like something's holding you back. Maybe you go to give a speech and you're consumed with performance anxiety. Maybe you go to knock on the door and they're not there. Maybe you want to speak up at the meeting, but you can't get anybody's attention. And after a while, it starts to feel like maybe something's holding you back. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I first experienced that when I was about 5 years old, as I was in the kitchen and I felt those cookies calling me in the jar. And I knew that I was meant for those cookies, and I wanted the cookies, and they probably wanted me. But in that mind, I realized that my mother was still in the room, and it felt like something was holding me back. I couldn't put my finger on it. Today, we're going to look at breakthrough on demand. And I'm going to show you in a little bit how if you will reach for something higher that stretches you just a little bit, how if you will stand in the space in between, and how if you will embrace your purpose now, it will transform that situation and your life and the people that it touches. My hope in sharing this with you is that it will renew your clarity on why you must break through, and it will renew your certainty that you will. If you're taking notes, this whole talk comes down to one thing. You need a bigger problem. Don't hate me yet. But since we're going to be talking about this for the next few minutes, would it be okay if I shared a little bit about myself? Yes. My name is Jarrod. I am a classically trained musician, the principal violist with the South Carolina Philharmonic, and I work as a performance coach where I train leaders in the thinking patterns of success. You see, anytime you keep running up against an obstacle, whether you feel like it's external, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, or whether you feel like it's internal, something's holding you back, I guarantee it's not for a lack of trying. There's something about that situation your brain hasn't seen yet. So being able to access a different way of thinking is your key to breaking through. And we're going to look at how to do that today. Now, as a classical musician, I wanted to play. I couldn't not play. It was almost a mental illness. I had to play. I was consumed by it. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. The thing that just grips you and you can't put it down. But that's where I was with classical music. The catch is I hated playing solos. Now this is a little bit strange because a person goes into music for the sole purpose of sharing the love. Yet anytime I had to step up to share the love, I was consumed with stage fright. This is misery. So I would play, I would be nervous, I'd be shaky, I would sound bad. I would leave that experience feeling so bad that I just wanted to sell my instrument and go take up something else. And when you have that feeling that something is pushing against you for the thing that you're pushing towards, it's frustrating. Now maybe you might have tried sharing your idea and so you wanted to speak. But the stage fright got the best of you. And so you tried all the usual stuff. You tried putting your script under your pillow at night. You tried eating a banana before you went on stage. You tried imagining the audience in their underwear. And of course, those things don't work. They put you in a place where the more you push against it, the more it owns you. So let's take a look at what actually works. Are you ready? Yes. All right, I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, get ready. Whatever's going on in that situation in your life, there are 3 truths that I want you to notice. Number 1, you are currently doing all that you know to do. I mean, really, pat yourself on the back. You're not being lazy. If there was something else you could do about that situation, you would be doing it, yes? Number 2, everything you're currently doing makes sense to do. Well, duh. Of course it makes sense, right? You wouldn't be doing it. What that means is a breakthrough in your situation will at first not make sense. If it made sense, you'd already be doing it. Which means your ticket to freedom is very similar to that time when you were 5 years old and you learned how to ride a bicycle. You didn't have it yet. You were a little wobbly. They had just taken the training wheels off. Maybe you'd already put a foot down. Maybe you'd already crashed. Maybe you'd already gotten hurt. And that feeling starts to creep up. You want it, but you're also afraid. You want the change, but you're also afraid. It starts to feel like in order to get the change, you're going to have to risk something. Is it worth risking it? And in that moment, your crazy Aunt Jenny comes by with some advice. And crazy Aunt Jenny says, what you need to do is go faster. Then it dawns on you, this is why they call her crazy Aunt Jenny. Because to your 5-year-old brain, going faster was the dumbest idea you'd ever heard. If you can't balance going slow, how in the world is going fast going to help? And then one day you went faster. Oh my gosh, this is what she was talking about. Now I get it. Gandhi did not start out as Gandhi. We know him as the man who spoke so profoundly that he changed the course of an entire nation. He brought peace to a country that was divided 4 different ways with civil war. But before he was Gandhi, he was a lawyer. And he was a really bad lawyer. He was in England, and on his first case, he fled the courtroom because he was terrified of speaking in public. On his second case, he goes back to his client the night before and says, I got to give you your money back. In good faith, I cannot represent you because I am terrified of speaking in public. What changed? What took that man from terrified of speaking in public to a place where it didn't even exist? Gandhi left England, went down to South Africa. Maybe he would be a better lawyer in South Africa. While he was in South Africa, he noticed that his countrymen, the people of India, were horribly oppressed. And in that moment, he decided he was going to be about the business of peace in India. Gandhi did not overcome his fear of public speaking because he Googled 5 tips on public speaking. He overcame his fear because it no longer existed. When you represent peace for an entire nation, then speaking in front of even 20,000 people isn't a blip on the radar because you're up to something bigger. When you take on a bigger problem, it changes your thinking, you access a new level of resourcefulness, and you find yourself capable of producing much better results. Now, I don't know what's going on in your life, whether it's that book that you've been meaning to write, whether it's the after-school program you wanted to start, maybe if you wanted to leave the cozy confines of employment and strike out on your own. I don't know what it is. But if you find yourself saying, as soon as I know how, I'm going to do it, I want you to stop. What I actually want you to do is go ahead and write the book now on how you did it. And I want you to think of all of the people that you know that are dealing with the same thing. And the difference that it would make for them. Don't fix it for your own life. Write the book for them. And yes, it's scary because you sit down on that first page and you don't know what you're going to say. But by the end of the book, you know exactly how to solve that problem. I invite you to take on something bigger. When I was on stage with the symphony, after years of stage fright, performing solos, years, hating it, but can't stop. Hating it, but sounding terrible. My solo's coming up, the orchestra's playing, I'm looking at the music, and that feeling's starting to grip me. What am I going to do? Well, it's too late to eat a banana, I'm already on stage. So then it dawns on me, what if I just took my own advice? Rather than focusing on what I was going to do next, I put my eyes on why I was going to do it. And I realized that that passage of music spoke of the felt experience of being loved. So the old game is play all the notes right, look good, do your best, and after that you have permission to feel good. The new game in that moment became stand for what is possible in my audience's life. This was a new game. I hadn't done it before, and I only had 30 seconds to get ready to learn how to play it. But this is how the game went down. I would play a note, and my brain would say, whoa, 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 you missed that note. That's okay, because I'm no longer in that business. I'm in the business of what's possible for my audience's life. I'd play another note, my brain would go, you know, you could miss the next note. That's okay, because I'm no longer in that business. I am now in the business of what's possible in my audience's life. And with every single note, I had to recommit myself to stand for what was possible in their life. I gotta tell you, at the end of that solo, for the first time in my life, I actually felt good while playing. Now, I'm not sure what project you're working on. Maybe you need to raise some money for your nonprofit. If you're going in there afraid that they're going to say no because you won't get the money, you've already lost. If you go in there afraid that they're going to say no because the kids won't get the benefits, you've already lost. I invite you to stand for what is possible in the donor's life. You see now at the end of your presentation when the donor says, you know what, we just don't think your organization is qualified for our funds. When they say, you know what, we just don't think you're ready for this level of funding. When they say, you know what, you need to come next year, we just didn't like the quality of your presentation. You say, that's okay, because I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of what's possible in your life when you see the look in their eyes at the difference that you made happen. That changes the conversation, my friends. I invite you to stand for what is possible for them. Several years ago, I was backstage at a TEDx event. Speaker's starting to get nervous. And that nerve is coming up, coming up, coming up. Of course, we got bananas everywhere, but the nerves is coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, getting worse and worse and worse. You know the game. That stuff doesn't work. Let me show you what does. Talk to the speaker. Why was this an important moment in your life? She says, because I felt delighted. Okay? Why do you want to share this with the audience? She says, because I want them to feel delighted. And in that moment, the smile comes across her face as she remembers why she's doing it. She had taken her eyes off of what to say and been reminded of why she needed to say it. She now goes on stage from the presence of delight, for the purpose of sharing that with her audience. She was transformed. My friends, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you feel is holding you back or what you feel you keep running up against. But I invite you to take on a bigger problem. I invite you to reach for something that you don't think you can currently get to. And yes, it's a risk. You can't get where you want to go by staying where you are. It is a risk. But that reach, the growth is in the stretch, and it accesses a new level of thinking in your mind that causes you to produce results you didn't know you were capable of. I invite you to stand in the space in between where you are and what's possible for them. Because when you stand in that space, you're playing a different game, and that different game unlocks something worth sharing. I invite you to go ahead and embrace your purpose now. Rather than waiting until you've gotten the words right and the message right, until you've finished it, rather than waiting like it's a reward, I invite you to embrace that purpose now because it's actually your key to making it happen. If you're taking notes, this talk comes down to one thing: take on something bigger. But I promise you, if you will step up to something bigger, you will find your transformation, you will find your breakthrough, just like riding a bicycle. Thank you.